All right, let's keep rolling here now. Joining us now on Line Number 8 from Nova Scotia, Bruno Marcocchio. Hello, Bruno, you're on the air.
Hi, Paddy. How are you today?
Good, man. How about you?
Good.
Good.
I'd like to start today with addressing some of the concerns that you raised in your preamble on the 3rd of April, a few days ago.
Okay.
First of all, you asked several times who I was. And for the record, I'm a stakeholder, Paddy, just like you are. I participated in the full panel environmental assessment hearings where I put on the record, on behalf of the Sierra Club, information on the environmental impacts, the need for the project, the alternatives to the project, and tried to look at the financing of this thing. This makes me a stakeholder, same as you, and I don't know why you need to repeatedly ask,
listen,
who am I?
Just for a second, though, Bruno, listen, as you know, in the way the preamble went the other day, it was hardly an insult to say, who's Bruno Marcocchio? As you know, but you can take opposition to whatever you like.
All right.
But you continue on.
It sounded xenophobic to me, but we'll leave that go for
That's
now.
fine.
The economic, there are no, you also referred to conspiracy theories. There's no conspiracy theory here. I want to talk for a moment just about what we have on the record. The facts, not theories, not conspiracies. There has been, as you well know, $500 million of a contract awarded to SNC-Lavalin prior to sanctioning, prior to giving the go-ahead,
That's right.
green light to this thing. At least $500 million of public monies are going to be spent before any decision is arrived at. This is the same Lavalin, as you pointed out, that's in international disgrace. They've been accused of bribery. The CEO had to resign this week because of the shady doings.
Oh, yeah, they're in trouble, and they're a company in disrepute, and their reputation has sunk.
So, that might raise some eyebrows about the relationship prior to sanctioning with SNC-Lavalin, but let's move on.
But what it does say about SNC-Lavalin is that they've had some people in prominent positions of authority who have done some less than impressive things and possibly some skullduggery beyond their normal operation of business. But yet the reputation as engineers seems to be pretty strong in the country, worked on a variety of top projects. So where that shakes out between Nalcor, the province, and Lavalin, I guess remains to be seen.
Okay. Now, I agree with you that power and influence will have a say. That's granted. But due diligence and public scrutiny are essential to avoid what Jane Jacobs calls a monstrous hybrid. That is, a public utility that's being operated not for its primary purpose, which is to provide a service, but when political influences enter into the picture and you start making financial decisions based not on providing a service but on those broader economic parameters.
So give me something specific.
I submitted an article that's there in your newsroom from Tom Adams that discusses at length the creation of these things, and I recommend that you read that.
But I don't know if I don't treat Mr. Adams as an expert. He's been once again, if you want to slander Lavalin, then certainly Mr. Adams has been brought into question. His relationship in Toronto, the things that he's said and done with other projects, his assessment of some things has been proven dead wrong. So I'll read what he says, but I'm not going to consider him the be-all and end-all or an expert on it anyway.
I just suggested you read what he has to say about the funding arrangements here. He's an energy analyst on the funding arrangements and the threat of intergenerational equity on this thing. And I'll get back to that. Those are facts.
But one thing, here's also a fact, Bruno, that what you did do also when you called Randy the other day is that you drew a line between Premier Williams as the architect when he was the Premier of the province, the appointment to the board of directors of Alderaan, and the mandate to deliver power for that company. These are words that you and some of your friends have chosen. And the direct link was made that this is being sold down the throats of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians as a willful, they're misleading us willfully, maliciously, knowing it's a bad deal, trying to screw us so they can pad their pockets, which is indeed an allegation of criminal wrongdoing, corruption, fraud, and a variety of other things.
Well, that's quite a mouthful you put in my mouth.
That's what you said, though.
None of which I said, Paddy.
Oh, so what did you say?
I said.
Like I said off the top of this show, I'm not going to have a whole lot of conversation where there's loose threads drawn to imply stuff. If you want to accuse people of stuff, then I think you should do that.
I didn't accuse anyone. I responded to a direct question that we went through a discussion about the economics and about the alternatives, and in desperation, Randy said, well, what does drive this then? And I said maybe a suggestion would be to look at the links between, I want to get back to this after I've been able to make my points. I'll answer your question, but it's important that you allow me to make my points about the facts of this case.
I always do, Bruno. I always let you stop.
Let me move on.
Keep going.
Tom Adams outlines, and you can check with yourself if you don't trust him, that this power purchase agreement that they're using as a funding scheme versus the cost of service model, which is normally what's done in these projects, poses a risk to the future. Let me try to simplify that for everyone.
I know what that means.
Yeah, but for everyone listening, cost of service is the kind of arrangement that you have when you take a mortgage out on a house. The payments are higher at the beginning, the costs are borne up front, and over time, down the payments go as you pay down the principal. Those are standard business practices when you talk about constructing new generation facilities.
Not always the case, though, because since you said that, I've had my look at some major projects around the world. That's not always the case, but of course you know that too, because the capital market also does, depending on the equity poked up in front, how you choose the finance, length of term, the type of business it is, all of those things have a impact on the type of capital financing arrangement agreed upon, whether it's the one you describe or your next subject, the royalty trust agreement.
Manitoba Hydro pointed out that this is an unconventional funding arrangement.
Yeah.
And they raised concerns about them, and Todd Adams both have expressed concerns that when these power purchase agreements are set out, they typically aren't extended into the future out beyond 20 to 30 years. In this case, they're extending it out 57 years. That's important to understand. This power purchase agreement is something that's never been done before to this scale and with the costs put out that far.
I guess one of the other facts to accompany this is nothing is settled, nothing is in stone, there is no contract, there is no capital financing agreement in place, so we're simply speculating on what may happen.
We're not speculating. We know that those cost of service options and people that wanted to put up equity financing were declined by the Newfoundland government to pursue this power purchase agreement. I've done a bit of research on these power purchase agreement arrangements, a generic discussion of the practice, and it turns out that they warn that, of course, the risks are in the back end if something goes wrong, first of all, and secondly, they say that you need to look at the fine details very carefully, because typically in these power purchase agreements, the buyer of the power, who in this case would be Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro, must sign a take-or-pay contract. That means that if they get the power or don't get the power for whatever reason, like, for instance, a technical failure, that Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro must pay for that power whether or not it's delivered.
Bruno, just let me jump in.
That should raise some risk, and everyone should be looking at the fine detail of the power purchase agreement to see if indeed who is on the hook for this thing.
Well, of course, and everyone has to be concerned because I'm always anticipating you to say something about the environment, because other than the cost, I don't really care about much of it, to be honest with you. I don't know how much my bill is going to be. Just 1 second, though, Bruno. I just let you go on, right? I did. I'm always wondering why, when you call, it's to discuss points of law or capital financing when you represent the Sierra Club. Like, what do you care about the financing agreement? And do you think that, based on some of the loose ties you've made...
I answered that at the beginning of the call.
But, Bruno...
Those things are on the public record if you care to read them.
I read everything that comes in. I know lots about this, man. You know, you can say whatever you want to me. You know I can take it, Bruno. But I'm always concerned.
The point is, you're missing the point. You're going off on a tangent, and please let me continue.
Well, I got to go to the break.
There's only been 2 independent
I'm led by a clock here.
When someone engages in the largest capital project that Newfoundland and Labrador has ever had, one would expect a level of public scrutiny. There have been 2 attempts at those reviews. One by the panel, joint review panel, which concluded at the end that it did not have the information to decide whether on the need, purpose, and alternatives of those things. The other one by the Public Utilities Board, who's had its mandate truncated, as you know, so that people were restricted. Your premier has been bellowing about how dare we listen to residents instead of the experts at Nalcor. Hello, does that not ring any bells? the PUB was not allowed.
The people that are supporting the PUB say the same thing. That's where this conversation has gone, Bruno. It's gone beyond some of the factual things that you're trying to highlight regarding the scrutiny for finance. We'll get to the point because I got to go to the break.
Public scrutiny has been the PUB,
who did nothing.
The PUB who could do nothing, and the panel that could do nothing. So now it's being tossed back into the political realm, where by brute force of a political majority, without the facts and figures ever being put on the table for you, for me, for the PUB, for the joint panel, for anyone to see, we're going to go ahead and let a majority go ahead with the project that's going to cost $10 billion, and that will put your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and your great-great-grandchildren at risk.
Not that you have any idea how much anything else costs. It's just that you don't like Muskrat Falls, which is fine, Bruno, which is your own...
You're missing the point again.
Yes, I'm so stoned. I can't hear nothing you're saying.
And I'm dying to present the alternatives, and when I get a chance with Randy, that's the direction I was going in.
But today you wanted to set me straight on capital financing.
And I must correct you. You slandered me about that, too. I pointed out to your producer that someone who called, Dennis Brown, the same time I did the last time, was permitted on the air today. You seem to have a rule for some and not for the others.
Bruno, I invited you on the show.
The last caller today didn't have time, and he invited her to call back tomorrow. Again, a rule for her and a different rule for me.
Bruno,
I want an apology from you.
Well, you're not getting one.
Well,
plus, you know what? This is a privately owned company. We make our rules as we see fit, sir. Plus, when you call my producer, if you scream and bawl at him again, you'll never get on the show. How's that?
I tried to get his
How's that sound?
Because he was giving me the bum's rush.
He was giving you the bum's rush. He's got a job to do like everybody else. He's answering those phones, trying to schedule the callers for the program. If you don't like it, don't call. All you call about the points of law, capital financing projects. You're an environmentalist activist. You haven't mentioned the environment once. I don't know if you know more about mercury if someone broke a thermometer off in your rectum. You haven't mentioned the environment once.
Now, listen, stop insulting me that way.
You're insulting me every turn.
I'll explain it to you again, Patty.
You insult me every time you get on the show.
I've done an environmental review. That includes an economic analysis because these are national, international,
then send it over.
Issues.
Send it over.
Environmental issues are global, Patty.
Send over the stuff so we can read it, Bruno. You keep telling me to read Tom Adams crap.
About the environment, it's on the public record. Read the record and then tell me I didn't have anything to say about the environment.
Bruno, I enjoy the phone calls.
On the public record.
I got to go to the break. I will continue to invite you on because I actually enjoy the calls. The highlighted issues that need to be highlighted, we make a decent attempt at it between you and I. So when you want to call again, you simply do so. I'm happy to have you on the program.
One final point. I appreciate the opportunity.
I have to go to the break.
But
I have to go to the break.
I'm offended by the level of bluster. You rate 9 out of 10 on the bluster
scale. Blah, blah. Oh, and Bruno, not you, sir. Not you.
1 out of 10 on the backbone scale, 9 out of 10 on the bluster scale.
1 out of 10 on the backbone scale.
That's not how to inform your listeners. You're just running interference, and it's time you start.
There you go. You get your back up. I accuse you, I insult you, and then you follow it up with an insult to me after I invite you on my show.
Listen, you've insulted me at every step along the way. I've tried to keep it rational,
It's gone both ways.
And all you can do is bellow and bluster when you got no backbone.
And all you do is bellow and bluster. And you want a backbone check? Ask around, my son. Talk again soon, Bruno.
I've heard what you did with your buddy Peter Panashaway, and now.
Oh, Bruno, you're so Bruno.
Why don't you call him on for another free pass?
If you want to be the insulting back and forth between you and I, we can do that. If I thought you wanted to highlight issues about Muskrat Falls, but it's up to you, sir. You call whenever you like. We can have a chat. If you're rude to the producer, you don't come on. Other than that, you go mad.
You mean I just don't have to talk about the environment when I call?
No, you can do whatever you like. You haven't mentioned the environment once. Yes, you work for the Sierra Club. Bruno?
Yes, sir.
Happy Easter. We'll talk again soon.
Happy Easter.
All the best.